Men over 50, listen closely. In part 1, I showed you why mega dosing creatine after 50, it isn't risky, but necessary if you want a sharper brain, stronger muscles, faster ATP production, and the kind of recovery that makes age irrelevant. We also introduced a supplement stack that doesn't just support creatine, it weaponizes it, turning every dose into a force multiplier for strength, cognition, and durability. Today, we're getting surgical. We're talking dosages, timing, stacking, mistakes to avoid, and the exact protocol turning ordinary men over 50 into walking biological upgrades. If you're not ready for this kind of level of precision, click away now. Before we go any deeper, let me bring you up to speed fast. Because part 1, it wasn't a creatine 101 video. Nah, it was a wake-up call men over 50 didn't know they needed. First, I broke down why older lifters often never reach creatine saturation points with the measly 3 to 5 grams a day. Why cold water, caffeine timing, poor absorption ruins your dose. Why beef alone will never give you enough creatine for muscle and cognition. And why muscles still first dibs and your brains get left with the scraps. Why men over 50 feel stronger, sharper, younger on higher dosages. And why creatine becomes a brain and muscle rescue protocol, not a supplement. And I also introduce you to a stack that really excels and expands on creatine. Part 1 was just the blueprint, the foundation, the biology, the why. If part 1 was the foundation, part 2 is the execution manual. Part 2 is where theory becomes action, where biology becomes strategy, where supplements become protocols, where sounds good becomes works down well. So today in part 2, you're going to discover the timing that makes creatine hit harder. Creatine, megadosing, and kidney health. The truth men over 50 need to hear. We'll also take a deeper dive into the supplement stack that amplifies the effect of creatine, dosages, timing, and the protocol. Then I'll finish off with some questions I received from part 1, because part 1 gave you the why. Part 2 is going to give you the how, when, and how much. Your muscles demands creatine first. Your brain, now that gets the leftovers. Now, if you're running on fumes, your strength, your cognition, your recovery, they all take a hit. This is why megadosing matters. Not for more gains, but to saturate both the muscle and the brain, so you stop running your engine half empty. Okay, let's start with when is the best time to take creatine? Now, okay, plenty of men want the perfect timing, but here's the truth. The best time to take creatine is the time that you will remember to take it every single day. Consistency, that's what saturates the system. Timing, that fine-tunes it. Now, that being said, my personal take on creatine is it's best for me to take creatine after a workout. And my reasoning for this is because it's when blood flow, insulin sensitivity, and ATP turnover is at its highest. It's when your muscles are begging for that fuel. And when it's begging for that fuel, that's when you should feed it like a king. Now, if you train in the morning, take it post-workout with your post-workout meal. If you train later in the day, take it after your session. Now, if it's a day that you don't train, take it any time of the day, just take it. Now, a quick reminder before we get any deeper on dosages and the likes is that everything from here on out is purely hypothetical and strictly for your silverback lab project. If you know, you know. I take 20 to 25 grams of creatine every single day. But high dosing creatine, it is not a challenge, and I want to drive that home. It is a progression. You do not jump straight into 20 grams if you're new. You earn that dose the same way you earn strength. Slowly, intentionally, and with feedback. Now, after speaking to your doctor, start with 5 grams per day for 7 days. If all is well, increase it to 10 grams per day for another 7 days. And you do that until you reach to 15 or 20 grams. Let me state, around 10 grams is that kind of midway point. It's that kind of middle area, okay? Now, if at any point your stomach feels off, drop down to the previous step and hold until it feels stable. No bravado, no ego, just smart, lethal precision. Now let's kill the biggest myth right off the bat, and that is creatine does not damage healthy kidneys. Let me say it again, creatine does not damage healthy kidneys. Not at 5 grams, not at 10 grams, not even at 20 grams. Now, the myth refuses to die because people confuse creatinine, which is a harmless byproduct of creatine, with actual kidney stress. Doctors see elevated creatinine on blood work and immediately, they panic, not understanding that lifters, athletes, and men supplementing with creatine naturally run into higher values without kidney damage. Now, here's why the myth still survives. Creatine raises creatinine, a metabolic byproduct. Creatinine is what your doctor sees on the blood work. But here's a part that nobody tells you. Elevated creatinine has nothing to do with kidney damage in lifters. Creatinine only becomes a concern when it's paired with things like low GFR, high BUN, electrolyte imbalance, worsening filtration over time, symptoms of renal distress, none of which are caused by creatine. Most doctors now, they're not trained in sport physiology. So what about megadosing 20 to 25 grams? Good question. Now, if your kidneys are healthy, you're fine. Studies on megadosing show no kidney damage, no filtration problems, no renal stress, no decline in kidney markers. So megadosing only becomes a problem if you already have kidney disease or you're very dehydrated, which is why I always state, speak with your doctor first. Okay, here's the why you didn't get in part 1. High dosing creatine isn't only about muscle. Here's the angle most men over 50 never hear. Creatine, now that becomes more essential as you age because your mitochondria becomes less efficient, both in your muscle and in your brain. You're not megadosing to be hardcore, you're megadosing because ATP turnover slows as you age. Recovery, now that drains more resources. Stress steals your phosphorocreatine. Sleep debt, now that kills your energy. Strength training demands more recharge. Mental fatigue hits harder in your 50s. Creatine is your backup generator. And the older you are, the more you're relying on your backup power. Okay, if creatine is the engine, these next 3 ingredients are the supercharger, the stabilizers, and the ignition system that turns that engine into a roaring, unbreakable silverback tear machine. Now, men over 50, we don't need more fuel. We just need systems that work well together, like a well-oiled and well-built war machine. So, let me introduce you to the squad. Okay, player number 1, L-leucine. I call this the trigger man. Now think of leucine as the guy with his finger on that detonator for muscle building and repair. It doesn't repair the house, it just flips the switch that commands the body to send in the workers. Leucine, it activates the mTOR pathway. That tells your muscles, grow now. But here's the kicker. After 50, your muscles become less resistant, or should I say more resistant to the signal. It takes more of a trigger to get the same response. So creatine is the machine, the engine. Leucine is the ignition spark. Without leucine, the engine sits idle. With it, everything roars together well. Now let's talk about dosage. Now I take 5 grams in my post-workout shake, and on non-training days, I take between 2.5 to 5 grams, split between a couple of dosage, mainly one in the morning and one later on in the day. And that is to make sure that I keep my leucine levels really high. Now, somebody asks me, why the hell would you want to add 5 grams of leucine to your protein shake if your protein shake already has leucine in it? Well, good question. But here's the truth most men don't know. The leucine inside your protein shake isn't enough. Not for men over 50. And here's the reason why. Because the leucine in whey or even food is bound inside the whole protein. Your body has to digest it, extract it, absorb it, and finally deliver it right to the muscle. That process takes time and a huge amount of stomach acid, which naturally drops as you get older, making it harder to digest your protein. Free-form leucine hits the bloodstream instantly. So with L-leucine, the free-form, you got no digestion issues, no waiting around, no inefficiency. It's the difference between, or I guess it's like eating an orange for vitamin C versus taking pure vitamin C directly. I mean, both of them will do the job, but one hits harder and faster. Now, there's another thing that men over 50 suffer from that you don't when you're younger. You see, your muscles stop responding to smaller doses of leucine. This is called anabolic resistance. Your muscle fibers need a bigger signal to start building and repairing. Free-form L-leucine, such as the stuff in here, that gives you a much louder, unmistakable signal. So it kind of tells your muscles, wake up, come on, rebuild now. Whey protein and animal protein, now that struggles to get that leucine threshold high enough, fast enough to break that resistance. This is where free-form leucine comes in handy. Okay, so on non-training days, if you're not getting enough high-quality animal protein into your day spread throughout the day, you're likely low on leucine. And low leucine equals weak signals, weak recovery, weak muscle maintenance. So adding up to like 2.5 grams of free-form L-leucine on rest days helps to top up that level. Now, this isn't for bodybuilding, so don't get worried, this is not for bodybuilding, but for the man over 50 who wants better recovery, better muscle retention, better strength, better metabolic health. Leucine isn't about looking like a fitness model. No, it's about keeping that machinery alive. Player number 2, and that's got to be the HMB. Now, if leucine is the trigger man, I call HMB the elite bodyguard who steps in when that fight for muscle becomes dirty. You see, men over 50, we're losing muscle really quickly because our body breaks it down faster. HMB, that stops the breakdown in its tracks. Now, this isn't vitamin help. This is an anti-muscle loss shield. Now, most supplements have a regular version and an elite built for precision version. And HMB is no different. We have the calcium version and the free acid version. Now, it's the free acid version. It's the free acid version that absorbs faster, hits the bloodstream higher, and reaches the muscle sooner. It doesn't need breaking down. It doesn't need to go through all the digestive steps. This form, it doesn't need conversion. It's immediately available, which is exactly what you want when your muscle breakdown is at its highest. And that's like during training, fasted cardio, during long gaps between meals. So let me have one. That is why men over 50 benefit from free acid HMB. It protects your muscles at the exact moment you need it the most, because age equals slow recovery. Age equals higher muscle breakdown. Age equals higher cortisol. Free acid HMB now steps in like a shield and says, "Oh, not today, my man." Okay, let's talk dosage and when to take them. Now, dosage, 1 to 3 grams per day, which equals 1 to 3 of those capsules. Now, this is very much dependent on your training volume, your goals, and your recovery. Now, let's talk about a few real-world examples. So when would you take it? When best to take it? Well, number one, if you do fasted cardio or workouts fasted, I will take 1 to 2 of these 20 to 30 minutes before your session. Why? Because when you're in a fasted state, your body is primed to burn muscle if the session goes too long or if the intensity creeps up. The free acid HMB, now that blocks all of that problem. Fasted cardio becomes fat burning instead of muscle burning. So the second point when you would want to take this would be on training days. Now on training days, you could take between 2 and 3 of those right before training. Now the max dosage is 3, do not go any higher than that. If you're doing cardio in the morning and then doing a training session, I will take 1 capsule in the morning and take your other 2 20 to 30 minutes before your training session. The third time that you'd want to take them is on non-training days. Now on non-training days, it's quite easy just to split those dosages up equally over the day. So take 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening. Best exact time to take them would probably be in between meals. Simon, if HMB is a metabolite of leucine, why would you need both? Now that was a question that was presented to me in part 1. And it was a very good question. So let me explain. Yes, HMB comes from leucine, but only about 5% of leucine you consume actually converts into HMB. So even if you're eating high protein, even if you're using whey protein shakes, you're barely scratching the surface of what HMB can do. And here's the key. Leucine and HMB don't do the same job. Let me break down the way it actually works, especially inside the body of a 50-year-old. So leucine is the builder. It's the anabolic signal that flips on the switch for muscle protein synthesis. You know, that start building now signal. But after 50, most men develop anabolic resistance, meaning your muscles don't respond to leucine the way they used to. That is why I use the free-form L-leucine post-workout. It hits harder, it hits faster. Now, your body doesn't have to break down the food to extract the L-leucine. HMB now, that is the protector. It's a totally different role altogether. HMB reduces breakdown, it speeds up recovery, and stabilizes muscle tissue when you're training hard, which I often do, training fasted, training stress, training on low calories, or simply just aging. Leucine switches on that building process. HMB switches off the breakdown. Okay, player number 3, TMG. Now, I call this the cleanup crew. TMG is that ingredient that most men over 50 don't know they need. That is, until they feel what happens without it. TMG acts like the janitor that keeps the cellular machinery clean and running smooth. It donates methyl groups, which your liver, your hormones, your detox pathways, and even your creatine synthesis depend on. Now, creatine megadosing burns through methylation quickly. TMG now, that puts it back. No TMG, you stall, you feel tired, you feel slightly off. Your performance is more likely to dip. TMG keeps that system clean, stable, and efficient. Okay, let's talk dosages, protocol, and I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I received on part 1 about TMG. Now, when it comes to dosages, anything from 2 to 3 grams per day is a great spot. Now, a lot of people have found that TMG makes them sleepy. Now, if you experience that, the easy solution would be to take TMG closer to bedtime rather than taking it in the morning. Now, the most common question that I received was, is TMG natural? Yes, TMG is a natural supplement. I mean, it can be found in very small dosages in things like beets, spinach, quinoa, and whole grains. Now, TMG functions as a methyl donor, supporting homocysteine regulation. What else does it do? Liver function and cellular hydration. Now, many people use it for heart health, muscle recovery, and potential benefits in boosting SAMI levels for mood and longevity. So if you eat beets, spinach, and things like quinoa regularly, you're already getting some TMG. But most people don't eat nearly enough to hit the levels needed for optimal performance, recovery, and muscle growth. But if you take betaine HCl or consume lots of choline-rich foods such as your eggs, your beef liver, calf liver, you might not need as much TMG. So here's an interesting question that I got about TMG. Does TMG increase your cholesterol? So let's break it down. The short answer is yes, but only in mega high dosage. Now you've got to think of your body like a high performance engine. TMG is like that top tier fuel additive that helps everything to run smoothly, especially when it comes to your things like your heart health, muscle growth, and recovery. Now, TMG's role in the body, its main role, acts to lower homocysteine. And that's a troublemaker that when it gets too high can clog up your arteries like grease in an old kitchen pipe. Lower homocysteine, better heart health. But you may say, well, what about cholesterol? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Now, if you took 4 grams or over 4 grams of TMG per day, TMG is likely to nudge up your LDL, your bad cholesterol. And that is in some people. So think of it like overfilling your gas tank at Costco. It can spill over and create an issue. But at the recommended 2 to 3 grams per day, TMG works efficiently without spillover effects. So, should you worry? Nope. But if you stay in that sweet spot, you'll get the muscle building recovery benefits and that heart protecting benefit without cholesterol concerns. That being said, if you already have high LDL or a family history of heart disease, you need to keep, you and your doctor will need to keep an eye on your levels. Now here's the bottom line. You got to keep in mind that when I or anyone else, including your doctor, claims that you can do something safely, that assertion is only based on current research and not a guarantee. But like with every tool that you use it wisely. Now let's stop sugarcoating this. Men over 50 who take creatine like it's a multivitamin, you know, that polite 3 to 5 grams stirred in some cold water, hoping that their biology somehow wakes up. That's not how you win the war on muscle after 50. That's how you get escorted politely out the game. You know, when you stack megadose creatine with L-leucine, HMB, and TMG, you're not supplementing. You're arming yourself. You don't get a boost, you get a biological revolt. Creatine, that fills the tank. Leucine, that fans the flame. HMB protects the fortress. TMG keeps the engine from detonating. Now, this isn't a stack. This is a muscle surviving protocol for men who refuse to go out quietly. It's a biological fist swung directly at sarcopenia's jaw. And most men, they want to experience the level of synergy because they're still treating creatine like it's optimal. If you're over 50 and you're still training like the world owes you muscle, you're already behind. Your biology, it's not playing fair. Every year after 50, it tries to take something from you. Your strength, your speed, your muscle, your memory, your drive. Now, this stack is how you take it back. Not politely, not gradually, not someday, but now. Because there is one thing that men over 50 learn too late, and that is muscle doesn't care how old you are. Muscle only cares how hard you want to fight for it. So the question is simple. Are you done hoping you maintain what you have? Or are you ready to build like a man who refuses to let age write his story? Choose your stack. Choose your standard. Choose your side. And I will see you on the battlefield because the mission continues. Peace.